now, last week we went over the details for the hands and feet. I'm going to go over the details for the face. And I'm going to give you some tricks that I normally use. But again, they're only for the ideal case when I don't have any foreshortening. And I'm going to show you an example of a self-portrait I did a couple of years ago. And a lot of the stuff I'm going to tell you in the demo, I'll basically go over the self-portrait. All right, there's 4 positions of the head in general. One is the back, and that's the easiest one. So we'll start with the easiest one first. And if I'm looking at the head from the back, it looks like a helmet, and basically the neck goes into the back of the head, and I essentially run into the shoulders. And then you have the ears sort of sticking out on the sides. The ears are really the least important of all the features we're going to cover. The only time they're really important is for the next case, which is really the second easiest, which is a side profile. For a side profile, I basically start with an oval and I add a cone to it. So I get something like that. And I'm going to give you 2 laws. One is the law of halves, which I'm only going to use on this one, and the other is the law of thirds, which we talked about last week, where I divide things, main features on the face are divided by thirds. And again, the only reason I use the law of halves on the side profile is because I could actually, for the side profile, look at the person's hair, I usually can see the back of the head. Okay? And if I can see the back of the head, I can just divide the head immediately in 2, and that gives me the eye socket and the cheekbone. Okay? Now, from that point on, what I'm going to show you for a front view and a 3/4 view is I now apply the law of thirds. The law of thirds, basically, I start at the forehead, the hairline, and from the hairline to the brow ridge is a third. From the brow ridge to the bottom of the nose is a third. And then from the bottom of the nose to the chin is a third. So essentially, hairline, brow ridge, bottom of nose, chin, I could just divide the head into thirds, and I'm going to use that law of thirds on the front profile and the side profile. But I can get the eye socket for free by my first marker, by the law of halves, if I can see the back of the head, which I can on the side profile. Okay, once I have that, I can draw the cranium in. I can actually swing an arc from the nose to get the front of the neck, and then under the back of the cranium, I get the back of the neck. And remember, with the neck, the front of the neck, the back of the neck is always longer than the front because of the overlap of the rib cage. So, all right, so now I got the nose. If I draw a plumb line from the forehead down through the chin, I could pop in the lips and the bottom of the chin. Okay? Now, quick trick is that the ear, the placement of the ear is between essentially the top of the nose and basically, the top of the brow ridge, the bottom of the brow ridge, and the bottom of the nose, on most people. It can actually extend, some people's ears are very big and they can actually extend below the bottom of the nose. But the distance from the back of the ear to the eye socket is roughly the same distance as to the bottom of the chin. So that will give you an easy way to place the ear very quickly on the side profile. Okay, then I have my cheekbone. My eye socket, I mean, you don't see much of the eye, and we'll go into the details for the eye shortly, but that gives you this, essentially the side profile, which is, again, the second easiest way, second easiest configuration for the face. Now, the next one is the front profile. If I'm facing you and I'm right, my eye level is right at yours. Again, in most cases I can't see the back of the head because of the hair. So I just start right off the bat with the law of thirds. I divide this up into thirds. And immediately the middle third gives me the nose. And that's just a triangular shape. Okay, this is the hair, bottom of the hairline. There's a plane here in the forehead, which essentially merges with the brow ridge. The eyes are basically set into the head. They're basically set in sockets in the head. I'm just going to start to indicate them roughly. If I now I put the mouth in by again further dividing this distance into a third. So the distance from the bottom of the nose to the top of the lip is about the center of the lip is about a third. And I could quickly sketch on the top of the lip, and then an indication for the bottom of the lip. Now, if I drop a plumb line, from the front, the eyes are separated by, the distance between the eyes is basically separated by an eye shape. Okay? And the inside of the eye should line up with the, essentially the end of the nose. So you have a ball in the front of the nose and then you have two wings. So the wings, if I draw plumb lines from the inside of the eye, they should line up with the wings of the nose roughly. The end of the top of the mouth, if I draw a plumb line there, should line up with the center of the eye. So that essentially gives you a rough position for the eyes and the mouth, and the mouth relative to the nose. Now, the ears from this, again, the ears between the brow ridge, essentially the top of the nose, bottom of the brow ridge, and essentially the bottom of the nose. And again, they stick out a little more in some people than in others. Usually the bottom of the ear is near the bottom of the nose, but it can extend down further. So the ears are really very variable from person to person. Again, they're the least important feature from essentially the front. The ear is much more important from the side, where you'd actually have to put the details of the ear in, which I'll cover in a little minute. Okay, so the cheek, there's a plane here for the cheek, so the cheeks actually come out. The mouth is a cylinder, it comes out. So there's a slight cast shadow, there's like a ball in the front of the top of the lip and a slight cast shadow under it. There's usually slight cast shadows in the corners of the mouth, and then you go into the chin, which is a ball. And again, as the cheek goes into the lower jaw, because the lower jaw really is connected to the skull by ligaments and muscle, there's a slight indentation. It really is a separate part of the skull. And then I could put hair on this person if I wanted. Okay. Again, if I have lighting coming from the left, this side of the face will be in shadow. There'll be a cast shadow from the nose, and typically this eye socket will be fairly dark relative to the eye socket on the right. And as I go around the top of, essentially the mouth comes out like the muzzle of a dog, and as I go around that, this goes into shadow, and then it pops back out again because there is another plane which will catch some light. Okay. Now I'm going to do details on each feature, particularly the eyes. From the front, again, the eyes, you don't draw the eye like this. That's not how you draw an eye. Basically, the eye is really dominated by most people's dominated by the upper lid. It's sort of an oval shape, and you get the tear duct. The upper lid dominates. It usually covers about a third of the iris. The lower lid is much more subtle. And typically for the light condition we normally use, which is lighting from the left, there's a cast shadow from the upper lid on the ball of the eye, which actually helps define it. Actually, it brings it out, because I'll put a little hard edge here, and put the iris in. You typically don't see much of the eyelashes from the front view, unless the person has fake eyelashes on, and you can actually put something out the side like that. The lips, we sort of covered already. Basically, the upper lip is usually smaller than the lower lip. You have three features in it. Basically, there's a little ball here. There's two wings on the upper lip. And then you go into the lower lip, which usually is defined by the cast shadow it throws on the chin. There's a small cast shadow on the ball of the upper lip, and then the corners of the lip. Also, with the lighting condition we use, the upper lip is turning under, so it's going into shadow, whereas the lower lip comes out and then turns into shadow. Okay. A nose, basically sort of covered that from the front. Essentially, you start with a triangle, you put a ball on the end of it, and then you put the wings on it. Okay? And there's a couple side planes, and again, depending on the lighting conditions, if the light's coming from the left and from above, the side plane away from the light is in shadow, and usually it casts a shadow on the cheek. And that's a fairly common condition that you're going to see. Alright. So now the last case where we combine this and this is essentially the 3/4 profile. It's the hardest case. And the easiest way to do the 3/4 is you start with that center line, okay? Because you're going to have foreshortening. So essentially, I draw the center line down the face, which would follow the nose. I'm going to use my law of thirds, only this time I'm going to wrap the lines around this egg shape. Okay, so this would be the nose. And again, the brow ridge would be here. But everything turning away on this side is going to be foreshortened. So this is going to be, it follows all the same rules we've covered so far, but everything that's turning away is going to be foreshortened and essentially squashed. So I put the dominant eye would be on this side. The other eye would be severely foreshortened. The ball, I would see mostly only one side of the nose. As I go into the lip, again, I'd be following the same rules, but the back side of the lip would be severely foreshortened. And again, the ear would be between the top of the nose and the bottom of the nose. And again, on this side of the cheek, you see, in many cases, you'd see the cheekbone come out and then come back in. Chin would come out. You'd go into the neck, and then that would overlap the rib cage. Okay. Now, again, on these two cases, the ear would have more significance. You have to put more detail in the ear. And typically, if I was looking at the ear straight on, it sort of looks like an upside-down pear. There's several concentric ring structures in the ear. There's one sort of ridge that sticks out on a lot of people that's right inside the ear. And then you go into a little flap of skin that's guarding the ear canal. Then you go into the lobe, which comes out. And then there's some structure in here that varies from person to person in terms of how pronounced it is. Okay? So the only case you'd actually be worrying about putting some details in for the ear would be either for the side view or the 3/4 view. Okay? Now, let me give you an example of a painting. Let me go through some of these things with an actual finished example. Are you getting the dog in with a rock, Nick?
I got a quick shot there, yeah.
She's not supposed to play with
She's not supposed to play with rocks or breathing inside. So she's essentially giving us a hard time. All right. Does it look about right?
Yeah, about right.
Okay. All right. This is 3/4, and basically you can see everything I talked about. Again, the distance from my hairline to my brow ridge about a third, bottom of the nose about a third, from the nose to the chin about a third. Again, the center line would follow my nose. Okay. Anything that's turning away is foreshortened. This eye is foreshortened and smaller than this. It actually looks like it's closer to my nose. Again, I can't even see the other side, the wing on the other side of my nose, just barely see it. Again, if I put a dividing line down my lips, everything on the left side is severely foreshortened. Again, you can actually see my mouth is coming out on the cylinder. The bottom lip is actually divided by this slight cast shadow that's under it. And again, my eyes are basically in shadow because, again, the eyes are in a socket. It's like a ball that's inside a socket. In this case, the lighting is almost from behind me. So my ear actually plays a role here, and you can actually see some of this. I had to actually put some of the detailed structure of the ear in that I normally wouldn't do for a front view or a back view, where you'd just be seeing the ears severely foreshortened. Again, my brow ridge, you can actually see where light is being picked up, particularly on bony surfaces. There is a bone in the top part of my nose, but because the light is hitting it, it almost wipes out the edge of the nose. And you can actually see that as I go down the nose and it gets more fleshy.
You lost me on something, and I'm sorry, I'm just not connecting. If you wouldn't mind going over it, I know you guys have heard it a zillion times, but would you show me the thirds? It's a brown line to the eye is
There's
1/3. The eye to the nose bottom is a third.
Right.
And then to the bottom of the chin. Okay.
Right. And then it's only true if there's no foreshortening. That means your eye level has to be at my eye level. The minute I move my head in any direction, you're going to get some foreshortening. So that's why it doesn't always look like that with a lot of poses, because you're either looking up or looking down, so you're getting some foreshortening.
Okay, how do you know where to put the hair then?
The hair varies on person to person. If the person has a receding hairline, you got a problem. Okay, you basically have to essentially get your third from the nose to the bottom of the chin, from the nose to the brow ridge, and then put your other third in, and then from that third, you basically put the hair in. Either the hair is at that point, or if it's receding, it's beyond, it's above that point. So you can, if the person has a receding hairline or they're bald, you can't start with the third up here because you can't see it. Now,
If they're bald, can't you see the top of the head and go?
well, yeah, if you can see the top of the head, and you don't have any foreshortening, you can start there and just basically, you could actually see, if I start at the top of the head and guess where my hair ends, I could actually get to the eyes, the eye socket, start on the eye socket, and that'd be halfway down the face. But that doesn't give me the markers for the other features.
So basically, the eyes are halfway down from the top of the head.
Yes, if you can see the top of the head. You can definitely see it from the side. I always use that trick from the side. I usually don't do it from the front or from 3/4.
So you can always just draw bald models.
Well, I mean, you can do that, but if the model has hair, you have to take that into account.
We shave them.
And again, so everything that we sort of covered is in this example. And again, you can see in terms of bone, I got a hard edge here for my cheek. It goes soft when I hit the fleshy part of the side of my face, where the upper part of the skull is connecting with the lower part of my jaw, which is basically held there by tissue. My chin, again, hard edge because that's bone. I got a pronounced chin. My ear should look fairly fleshy. It looks like there's a few hard edges on it because of the highlights. And again, I got a hard edge here because of the highlight and the bone that's in that side of the face. Okay, cut.